There's a surprising trend I'm noticing amongst the leaders that I talk to. It used to be, okay, we're talking about framework thinking, being able to think fast and speak really clearly, especially in the moment under pressure, so that your expertise is seen. All the analytical strength that you have is being demonstrated and others can recognize that. But increasingly, the conversation always come back to AI these days. And two people mentioned the exact same thing. So I wanted to talk about it on YouTube because I feel like more people must be feeling this, which is, okay, I'm a leader of a team and my team is adopting AI. You know, we're creating workflows, we're automating things. There is productivity increase, which is great. But somehow I'm still getting a lot of pressure from the exec teams. They're asking, you know, are you using agents? Are you actually delivering value? Make sure that you're pushing the team to see those results. And you wonder, but we are seeing those results. Why is there this disconnect between all this noise that's happening around and our work not being seen? And there's a miscommunication going on here. So the problem is twofold why this happens. The first one is a timeless one, which is, of course, just because you do good work doesn't mean it gets recognized, right? We have seen this so clearly because everyone is focused on their own thing. Just because your team is actually delivering results doesn't mean anyone knows about it, right? They are facing the same type of pressure and they're wondering, okay, what do we do? And if they're not as advanced as your team is with all of this AI stuff, they're going to be swamped. No time to pay attention to anyone else, which is really a vicious cycle because if your team has figured something out, there's learnings to be had, which both helps your team because they get the recognition for taking that experimentation forward, for adopting AI, as well as being able to help other teams. Okay, so that's the first problem. The good work does not speak for itself, which brings me to the second work of even when you talk about it, and these leaders, of course, they mentioned, right? Like, oh, we came up with this workflow. It saved us 6 hours a week. Great. But just by saying that doesn't mean anyone actually hears what it means, right? And the skill is in how do you communicate so that other people actually see the strategic value of what you're doing, actually see the consequence and the so what of what you're doing. So we'll also talk about that today. Let's start with a framework I call directional communication. And this is going to be able to solve these two problems at the core. So directional communication means you keep three directions in mind as you're communicating. First, you want to think about the North Star. Then you want to think across for alignment and go down deep to articulate your expertise. And when you cover all three directions, it makes it a lot easier for other people to both understand and see how it's relevant to them. Because every single communication, what is the point? The point is what the other person wants to hear, right? They want to know why this is relevant to them. And so being able to talk in these three directions will help you get that point across. Let's go one thing at a time. First, let's talk about the North Star. All right, this is the goal that the organization has or your department has. These are the priorities that everyone cares about at the executive level, right? For example, it could be that by the end of this quarter, we want to achieve a 10% uplift in productivity using AI. Okay, if that is the case, then your workflow that saves 6 hours need to be attached to this priority. So instead of saying, okay, we automated something through a workflow, it saved us 6 hours, translate that into how does it help that 10%. It could be that, okay, within our department, we've already, within the first month of starting this quarter, achieve that 10% uplift in productivity. What we did was create a workflow that automated a very complicated process. And now it happens every single day for 5 minutes and everyone gets emailed the results. So our department already, we created that 10% increase in productivity. All right, now everyone knows, okay, we can check off, for your department, let's say the strategy department, we've done this. This is awesome. And then that leads me to the second part, which is alignment, right? Of our department did it, but others haven't, right? So what are the learnings that I can help deliver so that others can also be able to benefit from this? It could be that this workflow helps us save 10%. And then the output also helps, the sales department and the marketing department, right? All of a sudden, you're bringing others in. So your learnings could be, now we know exactly what to look for to automate this work process. So we can work with sales, we can work with marketing to be able to identify what are the things that they need to do so that they can also benefit from our workflow. And by saving them time, it will also contribute to that 10% overall uplift in the productivity that we're looking for. Now, this becomes strategic impact, exactly what execs love to hear, right? Is you achieved it for your department, you know how to help other departments do it, which then brings me to this next part, expertise, right? Of these are the things that we learned so that we can help others do it in a more productive way. Not only are you collaborative, you can also show depth in what it is that you know and what makes your team, your department so incredibly valuable, right? It's not, we have to hire outside consultants to help us do this. We did the work, we had the learnings, and we're going to tell you what are the things that we found. And this brings me to the next question I heard a lot from leaders, which is, should I get my hands dirty with AI and actually build the workflows? Well, that depends. It's, can you articulate the expertise that your team has been building in order to figure out how to do these workflows? And I err on the side of, yes, you want to get your hands dirty and figure it out. You don't have to set up every single workflow for every single thing that your team does, but it is very helpful to learn by doing, because coming back to why the execs team didn't see your team's impact is because for a lot of people, they were nervous about talking about it, especially if they're a non-technical team lead. I don't want to get into the details of it because I don't know that much. And I feel I'm not AI literate enough to go into the details. And that lack of confidence holds you back from talking about the impact and talking about the learnings because you actually didn't have them firsthand, right? So this is why being able to go deep and being able to, one, know what the expertise is, and two, what they actually are and what they mean and how you got there is important, right? The change in AI, right? Nothing has changed. It's still the same idea of, good work doesn't speak for itself. You got to know how to communicate your ideas in executive situations, in cross-functional situations. But what has changed is that now leaders, you used to have expertise in the thing that you're doing. So when you go into these conversations by just saying, hey, keep an eye on the North Star, focus on the alignment and focusing on the expertise, you can find the insights to share. But the thing is with AI, if you haven't played with it, then you don't have the expertise. Even though you have domain expertise, let's say, you're in the strategy department, so you have strategy-based insights. You don't have the AI technology insight, which is why I definitely recommend the leaders to give it a try. And if you need free resources, they're everywhere. I have my AI agent free resource down below as well. Go through them and just try it out. Even if you don't use it on everything, it helps you articulate the insights. And in the end, insight is just something surprising. Right? It has to be an element of new. And so you can't regurgitate everything that is on the internet. But if you tried building out a workflow and you saw, okay, as I was building it, surprisingly, this is where I got stuck. Maybe it's we didn't know how to find good use cases. That could be the insight. It could be when we decided on the use case, we realized we didn't know how to capture the expertise. That could be the insight, right? And then it could be because we saw this problem, we solved it by trying these things and we found, X really worked. And here's the reason why. Well, that's really interesting, right? People are going to be leaning in and trying to hear, what are the things that you actually found? So if your team is already doing good work and it's not being seen right now, make sure that you know how to mention both the North Star, how it aligns and relate to others, as well as what's the expertise that you can bring that others will find surprising. Because especially at the end of the day with AI, people in the organization are going to have different levels of AI fluency. So the way that you talk about this has to be really concise, really easy to understand, and yet shows that you know more, you have more insights than the basic thing that everyone shares. And having done so many, change management, digital transformation projects in the past, you'll realize that even though everyone's talking about the technology, in the end, whether a transformation works, whether change management works, really depend on the humans, right? Human, as a default, we don't like change. And so there's going to be emotional responses to these things that seem very foreign. As a leader, then, you have to be, one, aware of that, and two, be able to go through that same emotional journey and figure out where the places where people get stuck so that you can talk about it, right? The execs are going to think about how are people going to adopt these, right? And so people are doing crazy things like token maxing, or like use as much as you can, otherwise you get fired. Okay. All tactics in the short term, right? Eventually it will come back to meaningful adoption, people actually seeing how this helps them. And so it is not just about the technology, but about how you communicate that, right? Like how, if your team is the one that is adopting AI, talk to your teammates about how they felt okay experimenting with this. Google had this fascinating report of how teams that are AI native actually work. And it's not about better prompting. It's not about the technology, right? It's about curiosity and experimentation. It's the mindset and the culture that you set up for your teams. It's also about, data-driven decision-making, clear thinking. It's also about resiliency through flexibility, knowing how to adapt, which is going to be a core skill going forward. And Microsoft also had this really interesting research into AI native startups and realized that AI native teams are less hierarchical, which means that even junior roles can be strategic instead of tactical. What that means is for those who are more seasoned, you can do higher order thinking, right? Things like actually managing AI, because it's just like managing people, and managing is an art and science of itself, right? Management consultant, literally, we use all the frameworks in the world and create more so that we can get better at managing resources in order to deliver results, right? And these are about assigning the right tasks, providing feedback, moving forward with decisions. And these are critical thinking skills, right? Things that require you to think very clearly and be able to articulate that, whether it's providing feedback, whether it's managing teams, whether it's telling the AI what it needs to do or telling the human what needs to be done and why we should do them. These remain timeless skills. So even though AI is creating a lot of anxiety and, feel like you always have to keep up because every other second there's news breaking out, at the core of it, use directional communication to be able to communicate all the things, all the experiments you're doing, all the results that you're seeing at this level so that you get more resources, more validation, and more opportunities to work with others. I think this is the moment we bring together framework thinking, speaking with frameworks, as well as AI. So if you want more videos like this, check it out here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.